This is Russia's nuclear-capable Novator 9M729 missile, and it's one of the main reasons why Washington says a historic Cold War-era arms control treaty with Moscow is now dead. Russia is solely responsible for the treaty's demise, U.S. top diplomat Mike Pompeo said on Friday. In the wake of the ripped-up pact, Pentagon is planning to speed up the development of missiles previously prohibited by the deal. Media reports say the U.S. is already planning to test a new missile in the coming weeks. U.S. President Donald Trump said Russia isn't living up to its commitments, but he remains hopeful of a new nuclear pact.
But I will say this, with Russia, if we could get a pact where they reduce and we reduce nuclear, that would be a great thing for the world. And I do believe that'll happen.
NATO says Russia has for years been developing and fielding weapons with ranges between 500 to 5,500 kilometers.
The new Russian missiles are nuclear capable, mobile, and hard to detect. They can reach European cities with only minutes of warning time.
The Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, signed in 1987 by President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, was put in place to reduce the ability to launch a nuclear strike at short notice. At the time, tension was at an all-time high. The superpowers were installing medium-range missiles across Europe.
As most of you know, we are currently engaged in highly sensitive negotiations with the Soviets that could lead to an historic arms reduction treaty on intermediate-range missiles.
Both Washington and Moscow have said they do not want to pursue a new arms race, but the withdrawal from the INF signals that there are no longer any binding limits on the world's two largest strategic arsenals.
And the significance is that Russia, since around the 2008 timeframe, began to violate this treaty. They didn't pull out of it, as one would normally do in that kind of circumstance, but instead kind of stayed in the treaty but just chose to violate it.
NATO has also rebuffed Russia's request for a moratorium on the deployment of short and intermediate-range nuclear missiles in Europe. NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg called it not credible.